Hey there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here for the next list from Shortcuts in 2025. I think it'll be about the 31st or 32nd list. This price list will go out 9 p.m. on Sydney this Wednesday, which is the 27th of August. If you are watching this video and you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaos@gmail.com. And thank you, many of you, for the really kind comments you've made about the 1001 album complaints podcast that I appeared on. The episode went out on Monday evening. It was a deep dive on Rum Sodomy and The Lash by the Pogues. I'll put the link in the emails this week, just in case any of you missed it. This is a classic rock and pop playlist. Or price list. I've got a bunch of Japanese presses, and then I'm going to do a quick flick through a whole bunch of Canadian first presses that will be on the list this week as well. And there are some crackers in there, let me tell you. All right, let's get started. I am just reminding myself of the list. I am starting with something that some of you might find a little bit surprising, but here it is. There's a couple of vinyl clubs and vinyl nights that I'm part of where the band Coldplay get a little bit short shrift. And when they played in Sydney a few months back, my wife went along without me because she knew that it would not be a concert that I would be particularly keen on. I do have a little bit of history with Coldplay, though. Back a long time ago when they released Parachutes, I wrote an album review of Parachutes for an Irish music magazine that I was heavily involved with at the time, called Clueless.com. I think you can still find it on the internet, and I predicted that Parachutes might win the Mercury Prize, and but that there was better to come from Coldplay. I do think they did do a couple of records that I like. This one that I'm about to talk about, and I have a lot of time for Viva La Vida. But after that, they became a truly horrendous band. There's no other word for it. They absolutely jumped the shark and increasingly sound like a bad AI version of themselves, and I just can't be doing with it. But this particular record has something. I think it is by a mile their best, and there's an interesting thing going on at the minute as well with their choice of vinyl for their re-releases. They're using this eco vinyl variant. I don't know much about it. I've read a few reviews who aren't very complimentary, but this is the EU first press of A Rush of Blood to the Head from 2002. This is the gatefold original press on pretty heavy vinyl, and it's pretty damn good vinyl as well. There's the insert. So what is it about these 2002 records? Obviously, right in the midst of the CD age, but this vinyl version of this record does sound tremendous. I've played it on a friend of mine's pretty top-notch system, and it sounds pretty great. It is just not a record that I love. I do appreciate, though, that Coldplay completely doubled down on dynamics and melody and scale with this record. They really went widescreen with what they were doing here. It's a much more muscular and urgent record than Parachutes, and you can really tell that they grown in confidence. The opening tracks, In My Place, The Scientist, Clocks, I think, is probably their minimalist masterpiece, but in many ways, alongside Fix You, is probably their key their key song, that kind of arpeggiated piano, the bass moving up and down, those ticking drums where the song, I assume, gets its name. Man, this record went stellar. All the year-end lists featured this record. I don't know how many sales, bucket load of awards, including a Grammy for Record of the Year. And if you love this record, this is the pressing to have. And they're really hard to find in Australia, but there you go. We have one in Shortcuts, which is pretty good. Now, I'm going to kind of do a little bundle here. You all know how much I love the Japanese press of Thriller. It's pretty great. I'm doing a bundle this week, bundling it with the Japanese 12-inch of Wanna Be Starting Something and Beat It. Now, the Beat It version here apparently is somewhat of a remix. I was doing some research on this. So the 12-inch does give the DJ at the time a little bit more room to play. So some of the intros and outro sections are kind of stretched and snapped a little bit more. But, you know, these 12-inch records from this era are pretty great. And the Thriller record itself, if you know, it's just classic after classic after classic. It really is ridiculous. In the genre list this week, I have a full 5 LP Quincy Jones feature, and Quincy Jones's production here is genuinely legendary. The airtight drums, just that synth bass, it just sounds awesome. And one of my favorite little tidbits about Thriller is that Eddie Van Halen's guitar solo on Beat It, he didn't get paid. All he wanted was a credit. That's the absolute I don't know what's the right word. The world was in thrall of this guy. And for those of you who haven't seen the there's little inserts, of course, but the truly weird and extraordinary posters that came with this record. I have no idea why he has a tiger on his knee, but he has a tiger on his knee. And he has this kind of full-length poster. But probably the most bizarre of all are the illustrations that are part of the magazine. They really are. And if you notice, they're signed by Michael Jackson. So he made those himself. It's for such a blockbuster record. It has its quirks. But, you know, I do think that Japanese press is pretty much unmatched. All right, I haven't had one of these for a while, so I thought I might just showcase why the Beatles Blue Album 67 to 70, the Japanese flag version from 1976. This is the best sounding version of this record I've ever heard. For those of you who haven't seen it, that's the really quite odd interior, but it genuinely is hit after hit. Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, Sergeant Pepper, With I Love My Friends, Lucy in the Sky from Diamonds, with Diamonds, A Day in the Life, and All You Need Is Love, and that's just side 1. Side 4, Here Comes the Sun, Come Together, Something, Octopus's Garden, Let It Be, Across the Universe, and The Long and Winding Road, and there's a number of other classics in between. It's a near perfect gateway drug to the Beatles. You know, Strawberry Fields to Long and Winding Road is pretty amazing. This pressing feels to me really tidy, really balanced. The vinyl is super quiet. The arrangements blossom without any murk that you get with some of the really kind of poor Aussie presses. I really like how McCartney's bass sounds on this particular record. It's canonized for a reason, this particular compilation. It is the easiest way to own a great sounding sweep through the band's late period without having to chase a dozen expensive first presses. Now, it's got the blue lyric sheets. It's also got, and I'm not going to fold it out, the poster in perfect condition. This folds out to, something not far off my height. And it's also got the full Beatles discography and the booklet that came with this. And I'll show you inside. It's got a bunch of photographs and things from the period. Some of the photographs are actually pretty special. Really, really beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's rare, in fact, that I have one in quite a pristine as condition as this. And that's why I have showcased it here today. So that's the second record in a row with posters. So we've got Michael Jackson posters. We've got the poster with the Beatles 67 to 70. This will be the third record in a row with a poster. This poster is getting increasingly hard to find. This is the rather wonderful P10106A Led Zeppelin 3 release. Now it's got the working wheel that you can see. The sleeve itself in really, really excellent condition. I'm just going to move this around a little bit so you can get to the next face. There you go. Now this on the back will give you a little bit of an idea as to where this poster goes. Led Zeppelin 3, I have a soft spot for Led Zeppelin 3. You've heard me talk about this before. After two really quite heavy records, this is a record where the acoustic guitar, modal folk, mandolins and all sorts come out to play, as well as some stellar blues and with the likes of Out on the Tiles, some kick-ass riffs as well as Immigrant Song. But this is the poster that comes with this particular record, and I'm just going to fold it out so you can see it. Quite different to the posters for Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, but there you have it. The Led Zeppelin 3 Japanese poster with this particular record in really, really splendid condition. There you go. Third record in a row with a poster. Man, these Japanese things. Talking about, how cool Japan is. Here, over the last few weeks, regular watchers and reviewers of the list will know that we've started to get more Japanese acts into the list, which I think is a really good thing. Now, here is a rock band from Okinawa called Murasaki, and this album is called Bourbon. They were named after George Murasaki, who was the keyboard player. And the keyboard thing here is kind of interesting because the production really punches out organ and guitar lines, really tight, dry drumming as well. And the band that I hear more than any other is Deep Purple. You 100% hear Deep Purple in this record. And I'm just going to show you some of the other things. Here is the little mini poster that comes with this record. So you can see here Murasaki, and it's signed by all members of the band. And it also features this, which is like a trifold fold out with all sorts of goodies, including English lyrics and posters of the band. This record was kind of under my radar, but it has a bit of a cult classic following in Japan, and it's a real kind of thunderbolt for those of you who like to follow, Japanese J-rock or any of those kind of heavier bands from the 70s. It's really interesting. It also includes this, which is a little survey that was passed out at the time that you could send back and you can get some extra goodies. But this copy is in absolutely beautiful condition, and all the extras in place mean that this is a really fun thing to have, especially if you like your 70s rock and your Deep Purple and you fancy trying something new. Murasaki's Impact. By the way, this is a record for me that because I've grabbed a copy from a few months ago, which is why I wanted another one. I really like the way this sounds. And so if your system really kind of, accentuates soundstage as to how they've recorded and produced this, where the organ and guitar overlaps, is well worth having a very close listen to. All right, let's move on to a band that are not on my shelf. I'm not a Doors fan, but I know many of you are. And I've heard many good things about these presses that I've gathered up over the years. This is the P8339E press. It's in really, really nice condition, and comes with the insert. And the vinyl itself is super sweet. I just played the opening track earlier today. This has not been played many times at all. Now, this debut album is, the synthesis of kind of theatre and blues and menace that was associated, I think, particularly with early Doors, and Ray Manzarek's Vox organ is, the key to this band. So yeah, it's a very, very fine example. Now I will just double check. No, it's not mono, it's the stereo copy, but it's on the Butterfly label for those of you who like that type of thing. So yeah, I don't get it, but I know a lot of you love it. I do get these next two records though. This is a really, really nice version of Deja Vu. I sometimes overestimate how familiar people are with early Neil Young. So we've got Deja Vu and the Japanese press of Harvest here. I had someone come by the crates out in the garage earlier today who wasn't that familiar with Deja Vu, and so we were flicking through some tracks I have on a Bluetooth speaker out there, and even I was just thinking, gosh, where do you start with this album? I mean, it's got that Laurel Canyon feeling, meeting kind of, on occasion, some pretty crunchy hard rock, great rhythm section. Obviously, the harmonies are ridiculous. I just think it's an amazing album, and it pairs really well with Harvest, becoming, I think, one of the most beloved Shortcuts records. The Japanese first press of this is to die for. The sleeve itself is great. The trick is to get this without all the humidity spotting, which this one obviously doesn't have. But you get the little poster insert with all the lyrics. It folds out like a poster. You get a kind of history of the band, and this, just sepia kind of inner. The record itself just sounds outrageously good. Two touchstones of 60s, early 70s rock and roll. And yeah, just amazing. And it's such a pleasure to have these copies here with us. I mean, I don't know how many times I'm going to get these boxes with these records. And I just think I'm just so glad so many are getting them. I mean, just think, Harvest is like, it's just a quiet juggernaut of a record. Everything about it is just wonderful. Reception, I mean, I know Harvest is on a pedestal, but I trust me, Deja Vu is just as good. And I'm going to talk now about a couple of 80s classics from, iconic music makers. So this is the Japanese first press of Let's Dance, and this, I don't know if this is the first press. The obi on this one's kind of interesting. It's like a cap obi that sits across. So this might be a repress, but it's in lovely, lovely condition. And what can you say about Let's Dance and Born in the USA? Crazy singles successes. Just became iconic 80s records. When Bowie hit on Nile Rodgers as being a collaborator, and probably the then relatively unknown Stevie Ray Vaughan, he just hit on something that was just pop charts gold. Modern Love, China Girl, Let's Dance, all masterclasses in arrangement with horns, really fierce rhythm guitar filtered through various different pedals and all sorts of things. I mean, it shines like neon, that record. And Born in the USA is just like a guttural howl, isn't it? It just is. I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen fan. I don't have Born in the USA on my own shelf, but I know others out there adore it. I am going to talk a little bit. I've only got a couple more, and then I'm going to do the flick through of the Canadian presses. But this is my personal favourite, the Purple Album. This is Who Do We Think We Are? Now, I had to double check earlier. This is the first press. This is the cardboard gatefold. It's a P8312W. The last of the classic Mark II lineup before they have a really long split, but that's the green Warner label, which is the one you want. I guess there's more tension in this record than previous records, and I also have a beautiful copy of Machine Head here as well with inserts and poster. But this is my favorite. Woman from Tokyo is just an all-time kind of strutting peacock classic. Rat Bat Blue, really bludgeoned. I think this is probably my favorite of theirs. It is a little bit less celebrated, but it is more bluesy, and I find it endlessly playable. And on a revealing system, if you really crank it, there's a lot to be heard in, again, instrumentation on this. The US presses of this were notoriously noisy, and from what I've heard, the Aussie presses are kind of notoriously noisy as well. The Japanese kind of glare on that mids in rock records means that this sounds fresher and bigger, I think, than any other version I've heard. You've all heard me rap lyrical about how good the Machine Head pressing is. I'm just gonna say I got one more Let It Be. So there's one left from the collection I got for $35 a few weeks back, and there's this. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. This is, I think, unquestionably Elton John's masterpiece. This is the trifold Japanese first press in beautiful condition. This is what comes with. So this is the magazine. It's kind of unusual, the hue and the kind of structure of the magazine for this particular release, because it comes kind of like a gatefold. And again, typical Japan, just great production quality and really nice photos and just lovely sounding thing. Highly recommend this record. Funeral for a Friend and Love Lies Bleeding, Candle in the Wind, Benny and the Jets. as side one of a four-sided record is pretty stonkingly hard to beat. Just pretty stupendous stuff. So there you have it. Now, I will do a quick flyby of these Canadian first presses. We have the Canadian first press of Brian Eno's Here Come the Warm Jets. The Canadian first press of Kraftwerk, Trans Europe Express. One of my guilty pleasures, Clues by Robert Palmer, featuring Johnny and Mary. What a song that is. I absolutely love it. I love this record. Kate Bush on stage. Now, one thing I will say about these Canadian first presses, they're very similar in to the US. So much sturdier, kind of solid cardboard than Australia. Not quite, Japanese, but pretty good. Paper inners, not polystyrene. The vinyl quality of all of these is excellent. We've got In the Heat of the Night, Pat Benatar, again, the paper in turn, and I'll show you these. They're in absolutely pristine condition. We have Whitney Houston's debut. We have Real Life, Heartland, a bit of more new wave. We have Flesh and Blood by Roxy Music. Again, the paper insert, beautiful condition. We have Picture Book, Simply Red. It features Money Too Tight to Mention and Holding Back the Years. Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, the Mighty Eurythmics. We've got one of the more interesting and really rather good records in this little mini bundle, The Dog and Butterfly by Heart. This is well worth a listen. As is this, the only kind of prog record. This is the debut album by Lake, who were, as it turns out, really popular in Canada. Really, really interesting record. We have the, I think this one's, Mongo Bongo by by Boomtown Rats. Now, I just caught sight of something. It does. It's got the whole magazine insert that came with this poster, folds out to about my height. In fact, I might fold this poster out just so you can see it, because it is rather cool and pretty large. Am I not the right way around? Yeah. Look at this. There's your poster of the Boomtown Rats back in the day. And there's one more to go. If I can fold this up without destroying it. All good. The rather wonderful Age of Consent Bronski beat. Small Town Boy being one of the great singles, I think. So there you have a Japanese collection and a Canadian collection. If you would like to be on the price list for these, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Leave me a comment, a like, follow, all the usual business. And I'm going to do the genre list now. Okay.